Marc Clarke, that's classic. I love it.
Good morning and welcome to the Marc Clarke Show this morning, Bootsy Vegas. I gotta say, this is probably the first show I'm a little bit nervous.
Don't worry about it. Nervous. That's what you got me here for, Mark. Here's the thing about all this. As I tell Raheem Devon's musicians, if you get in doubt at any time, you get a little nervous, just look at me and I'll guide you to the victory. Don't worry about it.
Well, because we have a guest on today. Not often when you have a real legend, and not just in the DMV. I was talking to this guest about my radio exploits, and he knew everybody I knew on my journey before I knew him.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
He's a national treasure. And again, when people say that, we say it so often now, people want to give him his flowers. No, this interview today, you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn today some things you never knew before. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen,
the man,
owner of CD Enterprises, the GOAT,
the myth, and he is the GOAT,
the legend. Darryll Brooks joins us. What's up, DB? What's going on, buddy?
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you guys hear me.
Yes, we do.
Oh,
yes,
good.
we do.
I'm up here fiddling with my my laptop and also my iPhone because I was trying to figure out how come I wasn't on one, but now I see after I downloaded, I got on. So
okay, you're here, brother.
I figured it out.
So again, look at Darryll looking like an icon as always.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So Bootsy,
what's up, Bootsy?
What's up, OG? How you doing, sir?
You know what? When I saw your face first, I said, "Oh, maybe I'm in the wrong time," because you are the master interviewer. I'm very familiar with your style. But Mark, guess what? You have a what they call a compadre there. That's a beast. So I'm gonna enjoy this.
Oh man, I'm glad you recognize it, Darryll, because so many people don't. No, I'm joking. No, people, he has become the questioner, Darryll. He's been hitting people in the head with these great questions. And that's why, again, as you know, Darryll, for years, Troy Johnson was with me with the Big Fat Morning Show in Baltimore, and that was the best kept secret. And now I got Bootsy Vegas. I get the best kept secrets. And as you all know, I'm married. But it ain't a secret. I married the most amazing secret of them all. But anyway.
Yes, you did.
So Darryll.
Hats off.
Gentlemen, to lighten the most, not that we need to lighten it. I just thought this story is funny. And we all are men of a certain age. Man shot his male doctor after he made him come during a prostate exam. I just want to throw that out there for you guys because we're all in that rotation. So anyway, yeah. Milo Jackson he's on the run in Florida, y'all. Man, come on, guys. Let's just move forward and get this over with and deal with it like grown-ups, right? Okay. Now,
I don't want to laugh at that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at this or not.
But, hey, man. Okay, so enough about this guy, Darryll Brooks. We're gonna go way back. So I want to first start off with your initial, who is Darryll Brooks? Tell us. The story. Tell us the backstory on you, my friend.
Well, I think I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. For those from D.C., we call ourselves Freeman Hospital babies. My parents both grew up on Sherman Avenue, and I had the opportunity to go to school in D.C. I lived over in Northeast, over there by Benning Road, and went to Spingarn. My father owned 2 laundromats on Minnesota Avenue. My mother was a magna cum laude out of Miners Teachers College. When she passed, she was speaking like 5 languages. I got into advertising because I didn't want to work for nobody but me and my people. So I started an advertising agency, and the advertising agency went kaput. And I got involved with a nonprofit organization and used all the energy and things I learned from one side and applied it to the other side with a good team of people. Carol Kirkendall, who's been my partner since 1972, but really I met Maceo Leatherwood, who was my graphic artist, and a guy named Tony Taylor, who used to run the Bohemian Caverns. And they introduced me to the whole uptown arts people like Lloyd McNeil and those guys, Les McCann. And we started organizations called Compared to What Incorporated. We started doing programs on monument grounds. It was to celebrate the arts. And it was like a playoff of what had been happening during the riots in D.C. and the federal government and the district government were trying to find activities for youth. And my partner wrote up a proposal saying, okay, let's do this and let's do that and have an activity that brings youth, arts together in education. And that has been probably our mantra since the beginning. We just stuff in at the monument grounds. It was called Human Kindness Day. Another proposal was written to set up an arts program during the summer. And that's what we called the Summer Hut program. And we did that in Anacostia Park. And what's funny about that, we didn't know we were being played because the city had no programs for Southeast. So we came in with a program, all green and happy, happy, joy, joy. They put us over there in the hood and said, okay, do that. Guess what? It was successful for 4 years. We had, thousands and thousands of people participate in the program. And we started something besides doing educational programs during the day. We started doing concerts at night, which began, we call it, evening concert, but we were getting local groups opportunity to present themselves to the community. And so we were getting groups from all over the city, come down there 5 days a week. We had park service, sound, infrastructure, light, stage. We ended up doing workshops with a crew to help them become stagehand union, be able to put up sound reinforcement, put up lights, and be able to work a stage. Those guys eventually ended up getting a IOTC card from Local 22. So, and that was what they helped with Dr. Dines up at Howard University. I think the only point I'm trying to make is that there was a lot of components that came together because of a positive energy that delivered services, education, entertainment to the community, and it was all nurtured right there in Southeast and by some folks who just had another outlook on life during that time period. Is that enough for right now?
Man, I love it, man.
That's a great intro.
I think one thing about our show that we're proud of is I think we haven't been doing it as long as you have, but I think at the end of the day, that is the basis for Bootsy and I and Allison and what all I've been involved with is at the end of the day, you're on the mic, you're on behind the camera, but you want to do something that creates positive change in the universe, right? And it's interesting because I think nowadays there's switch going on, but we'll hit that. But I want to go back, Darryll. So Allison's from DC, off Primrose, and her fondest memory, her parents were classic DC Peace Corps, Afro, dashiki, God is love people. And her fondest memories when I met Allison in St. Louis, and she couldn't wait to get back to DC because she loved her city, especially that generation, Darryll, was the drum circle at Malcolm X Park, which she took me to, and also growing up with at Carter Barron, those concerts at Carter Barron. Darryll, take us back to what you're talking about. That DC, that was Chocolate City, DC. Take us back there again. You basically did, but what was the spirit going on? Because I think the outside image was Chocolate City, crime, but then people here, though, there was a love affair going on with the city, with people from here.
Well, I think the thing that for me as a homeboy of DC, there were certain things that just made me smile. There was record stores that would play music, and people could dance. People loved to dance in DC. But also, we had a lot of musicians. When you think of musicians, you say, yeah, somebody in a nightclub. No, these were musicians in high school bands, junior high school bands, a church on Sunday. So you had lessons everywhere. People were playing horns, drum, guitars. They were playing all kinds of stuff. They were singers. And then the Carter Band was like like a flower in the park where you can see outside musicians come in and deliver good musicianship. But you can also go to the Howard Theater at that time. Kids during that time could go to the Howard Theater, I think, for like $2 or $3 on Sunday. So you saw shows. My first show at the Howard Theater was James Brown. I was terrified. I'd never seen that kind of energy in my life. You know what I mean? We watch it. We hit the back door of the bus, rode down to 8th and H, took the streetcar over to uptown to the Howard Theater, got off. It was about 7 of us. I think our ages might have been 13 to 15. We sat there on the line and waited to get in. When all these people making noise, when the mic came out of the ground, I said, I was blown away. And when he started saying, please, 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 and started screaming, I knew I wasn't in church, but people were getting off. There was sweat coming off the walls that was so popping in there. So those were the things that nurtured me. And then when I was in high school, we used to sneak into the Bohemian Caverns because we used to play pool across the street. So at night we would go over to the Bohemian Caverns, pay a couple of dollars, go downstairs. I saw Jimmy Smith, I saw Les McCann. I thought we were just young kids. We called them block boys back then. Y'all call them something else now. But we were block boys, and we were wearing FootJoy shoes, and all you hear is Cavalier because we were dressing nice, and that's what we were doing. But the thing that clicked in my life, and don't laugh at me when I say this, my mother and father got tired of that. Said, no, you're not doing this. They sent me off to prep school, okay, in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Total culture shock. Because normally the only time I saw a white dude is when he came to pick up the money for insurance. Now I'm in a sea of white folk. I'm like, what a brother going to do? Can I get some help? But I learned so much from that because it was a culture exchange. I met guys from Africa. I met guys from South America. And then we went to summer school because my grades were whack when I was going to spin gun. Because the only thing I was ever interested in was football and working my father's businesses. They sent me to summer school in Europe in a place called Llantwit Major, Wales.
Wow.
Llantwit Major, I lived in a castle, St. Donald's Castle. Look it up, pretty castle. And we had summer school there. And at the end of summer school, which was about 8 weeks, then we did a tour of Europe. I went to Scotland, Ireland, England, France, Germany, Switzerland.
Wow.
And then I came back home. When I came back home, that was in 1963. Soon that week I got home, they had the March on Washington. Now I'm sitting there, I'm on television on BBC trying to tell folks, they're interviewing me saying, well, Darryll, what do you think about the race problem in America? I said, it's no problem. Because I didn't know what to say. I'd never been on interview. I didn't even know the platform I was on. But I felt bad about it later on. I said, because I didn't tell them what I really know. I just played the role that I thought I should play in that particular space. But when I came home, I joined up, hitchhiked down to the Monument Grounds, and got in the March on Washington. I went to college because my parents said, "Man, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to college?" See, got entry to about 7. I went over in Kenilworth because some of my partners live in Kenilworth. I said, "What college everybody going to, man?" They said, "Man, a lot of brothers from DC up at Central." I said, "That's where I'm going because I want to be around brothers I know."
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. When I went to Central, I ran into brothers from DC. I ran into a brother living on my block. I didn't even know he was going to college, and I had a ball. But I met guys from Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Gary, Indiana, New York. And that melting pot of music, that melting pot of culture, that melting pot, because instead of going home for the holidays, what we would do is go to everybody's neighborhood. I would go to hang out in Chicago. I would hang out in Cleveland. But it gave me a bigger understanding.
What year was this? What year was this?
63 when I first went. But here, I'm going to say this one thing, and this is going to set it off for you, Mark. This brother had just got back from Vietnam, okay? I'm sitting around wearing Vitalis and a stocking cap every night. The brother came to me and said, Brother Brooks, come here. You ain't got to do that, man. Don't you need to wear that stocking cap, man. Let your hair grow natural. I said, man, if I can't do that because it'll be nappy. No. Do me a favor. for the next 2 weeks, don't put none of that stuff in your head. Don't do that. Don't put that stuff on. I grew an afro, but it also woke up a consciousness that had not been nurtured to that level.
Come on now.
You understand what I'm saying? Ooh. That consciousness flipped the switch because a whole nother lens came into play. I ended up going to jail in Yellow Springs, Ohio for a sit-in and a protest because this white barber wouldn't cut black hair. Okay. But we ended up caucusing with a lot of brothers from Yellow Springs and from Central, from Wilberforce. And we started raising our own consciousnness on black history, black information. So when I came back home, I was wearing a dashiki, had a big fro, and I smoked a little weed every now and then. But my whole enlightenment flipped. So when I got caught up with Tony and all those guys, I knew what, from a cultural standpoint, was going on. I also knew what was happening economically with our people, and that's why I got in advertising. I said we need help to get black folks to enjoy what black folks do, because we're so used to giving our money to white folks. Why can't we give our money to our own folks? We can do a restaurant, we can do a hotel, we can do all that stuff. But the consciousness would not flip that switch because we have a massive amount of money that we control, but we give it away to everybody but ourselves. Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, y'all have the floor.
So, Darryll, I mean, first of all, I'm gonna unleash Bootsy, the questioner, but
he know what's coming. And be clear, he know what's about to come. He knows what's coming.
And so, Darryll, first of all, what a blessing to have you on this show. Again, this is history. This is, I'll send you the link. This is recorded. We don't, you don't get these interviews on television. You don't get the real stories. You get, and I know it has to drive you crazy because you're older than we are, Darryll. And I'm at the point where I see stuff, I'll be like,
are you sure you're older than I'm older?
People, sometimes not their fault, don't know. It's like when you hear a song on the radio and you think it's the latest song, but it's been made like 5 different times with samples. It's almost like information is the same way because we don't get a chance to talk to people like you to put it all in perspective. And so, Bootsy, I know you got probably DC specific questions. And so, Bootsy, I'll do a pre-question, Bootsy, then you can go and then we'll come back to Darryll.
It's all good.
Okay, so Darryll, what I wanted to get into was, boom. So when you talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and you talk about rock and roll and these mega concerts that people, we grew up seeing these big rock concerts. And I think most people don't realize before the rock and roll concerts, it was these huge black concerts and huge black promoters, right? And I think we always, because we're always used to the narrative being like we're second or whatever. We don't understand that. No. Motown and those reviews, that was the big concert venue first, and then rock and roll came along. That was before rock and roll. So Darryll, give us a little bit of perspective on that, because as we were talking out there, you were telling me about people like St. Louis, like Massey and different people that I ran across. Bootsy, this little guy. I was in St. Louis. This little guy had a little ticket shop in my mind, right? And one day I was, I thought he was like, the little ticket shop you buy concerts. People, they didn't go there for the main concerts, but you went there sometimes for some blues concerts, for some this and that. So I was having a conversation, and he told me he was the first one that brought the Beatles to, I think he said to America, but I think it was in St. Louis. And then when I was talking to Darryll off air, he said, he brought him up. He said, oh, you mean da-da-da-da-da-da. So Darryll, take us back then before the rock and roll and all that kind of stuff when we were doing those kind of concerts.
Well, I think what he's talking about is a bunch of brothers that were called Regal Sports.
Regal Sports. They
were in St. Louis, and they had a ticketing location, but they also had a bar, and they would. I'm trying to think of the guy's name who ran it. It'll come to me as in the conversation. But he knew August Bush. He knew the Bush family, so he had a great relationship with them. But at the same time, once you pass that part of the Mississippi River, he was the guy. He was the I don't know, the staple of that music entertainment community, because they had a place that everybody would shop, go, get some liquor, and that was a club. But at the same time, his record shop, they had a ticketing system. This was before Ticketmaster that basically sold all the tickets in that area. So it was a natural for him when they came that way, to let him be involved, let his team be involved. Mr. Massey was one of them. Oh, I can't get the guy's name. Help me with the name, Mark.
You mentioned it the other day, but I didn't know him. But go ahead, there's okay.
No, but it bothers me because when you ask about old guys, there were guys like Henry Wynn that was in Atlanta. There was guys like Teddy Powell and out of Jersey and New York, and they basically did all the touring. Louis Gray on the West Coast. Those are the guys that were taking these artists that came out of Queen's Booking Agency, which was a black booking agency in New York that did all the Isley Brothers stuff back in the day, all the old stuff. But those tours, and they were running the Chitlin circuit to all the theaters that ran from here through the South. And I think those are the things that got wiped out as time grew, because white folks had opportunity to see that there was money in them there hills. And when we started, our economy got better, that's when they started saying, okay, we're going to take this. Because even when I started out, I could do a tour with maybe $100,000, seed money. In order to, you can't even buy an act now, a major act, for $100,000 now. There are acts now that start at $500,000 to $1 million. That's just for one show. That's not for a whole run of show, 30 or 40, 50 shows. When we toured back in the day with like Parliament Funkadelic, if we didn't do at least 60 to 90 dates on a tour, it wasn't a tour. 30 major markets can get you a short run. That was like child's play. Because we were going all those secondary and tertiary markets, you know what I mean? Omaha, Baton Rouge, all through the bottom, all over the place, along with the major cities. You know what I mean? These big companies, they start buying up all the property and they change the landscape. And instead of buying an act for one year, they would buy the act for 3 years. So they would take them out of black guys' market because you didn't have the money that these other guys were offering. And the acts look at you like, hey, brother, love you, but I got to get this cheese, man. I'm gone. You know what I mean? And I would say, well, do me a favor. Then tell them I have to be a part of it because I laid the groundwork and you have a relationship. Some of them did. Stevie Wonder was. Stevie always kept a brother in. Earth, Wind, and Fire always kept a brother in. But the rest of them folks, a lot of those folks, they lost you as soon as they blinked. Oh, and you can't even get a backstage. But hey, man, I'm not. No, man. You got to talk to them. What do you mean I got to talk to them? I don't know them. I know you. I was there when you were hungry. But it's another conversation. But those are the things that transpired even to the day. You know what I mean? Period.
And Bootsy, what's crazy, Bootsy, is the gentleman and the team that Darryl's talking about in St. Louis. When I arrived, on the radio, so let's say that was the 90s, the guys that interned, the Jewish kids that interned with Regal Sports, not only had their own ticket system, they also bought the venues, like Darryll said. So they got the knowledge from the brother, and then
I'm quite familiar.
Right, quite familiar.
Yeah.
So Bootsy, the questioner, what do you have for Darryll?
Okay, so it's so many layers to unpack, but let me just put this in really perspective. This is my humble opinion, right? I don't think you can have a discussion on go-go music and the circulation of go-go music outside of the market without having a conversation with Darryll Brooks in it. This is a fact. You know what I mean? So it's so many layers to really unpack it. But let me give you like a small story before I start, going into my questions. So I was working with Earth, Wind, and Fire. There was this big show at the Kennedy Center. So for people who are watching, y'all do know the Kennedy Center is like a huge spot or whatever. And I remember Verdine asking me, do you know Darryll Brooks? And I'm like, because I was thinking it could not be the same Darryll Brooks that I know. And then Darryll Brooks from DC, because I just thought there's no way that could happen. And I can remember our first conversation that me and you really ever had was in the Kennedy Center cafeteria, me, you, and Bernie talking about go-go music, where it should have been, blase. So it's just going to show you that, how far your arms stretch. But I would love to know, just from you in general, what came first for you? Was it the promoter or was it the manager? Which one did you venture into first? Because I know you have an extensive promoter background, but also a successful, extensive manager. Which one for you came first?
Well, to be honest, I would say manager for the following reason. When we started doing stuff in the park and did Human Kindness Day, I would introduce and bring a lot of bands to play in down in Anacostia Park, or they would be at our programs at the monument ground. But the other part of that is that the city gave us another contract so we could help them get bands for other parks around the DC through DC Rec. So one band in particular, a band called Black Heat, kid named Esco Chroma, called me up one day and said, "Hey man, I want you to be our manager." I said, "Man, I don't know nothing about management," but I'd already put them on like several real good gigs, for the city. And he said, "No, I don't care what you don't know. I want you to be our manager. What you don't know, we'll figure out together." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, all right. Holler at me later," because that was not what my headset was.
Right.
And about 2 weeks later, he said, "You got an alternative. You got to let me know by Friday." I said, "Okay." I said, and what happens Friday? Because we got a record deal with Atlantic, and I need you to go up there and talk to him for me. I said,
right there.
Let me try this one time. So I got involved with him, and it was a very good, interesting, life-changing experience. Because
what year was this? What year was this?
I would say probably around 74, 75-ish.
Okay, because it's a reason why I'm getting these years. So you said 74, 75, Black Heat, Atlantic. What was that experience like?
I went up there a total buffoon because I didn't know the record game, but when I went up there, I just knew basic business acumen and also street acumen as far as promotion. But the stuff that they were talking about, the things I know now, if I had known even a piece of that, it'd have been a whole different set of circumstances. But we ended up recording the second record. But the thing that happened with those guys, there was one of their guys who had formulated these guys had copyrighted their name, so they didn't have the rights to the name Black Heat. And
that's how it happens.
Phil Gilbo, who used to work for Ray Charles, he's the one that formulated the band, hooked up the band, all these young boys, but he would go on the road while these guys were at home still grinding and trying to do records. So when our second record came out, Phil Gilbo came in, shut that down, took the record company back together, and left them. So they were called AKA, also known as, and their whole stock went down. So that was the end of that run for all of them. They never really got themselves together after that.
But it was, but you would say it was a great experience as far as learning. That was your introduction to the record.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a great deal because we were going on the road. These guys would kick ass with Commodores, Cool in the Game. We were going all through all the colleges, all through the South, and they were a great band, super band. But when you see those other bands playing, they could go toe to toe with them.
Wow. So I would love to know, because that still to this day, there's still discrepancies on when or how. Could you tell me, as a DC native and a promoter, when did you start realizing or see the beginning stages of go-go music? Because for people who do know, you have a huge stock in it. But just from the beginning part, what year do you remember it being formulated, and who were the people you remember doing it?
Well, that's interesting. The way you said that, it has its own mystical look at it, because we used to go down in Anne Arundel, down at Columbia, Maryland, because there would be barbecues or beach parties. Chuck Brown would be the hot band during that time. Young Senators would be the hot band that time. Sir Joe and the Free Souls were hot band at that time. But the word go-go, I started hearing with Smokey Robinson, the Miracles. I also
going to a go-go, the song.
Yeah, I also started hearing it when Max Kidd and Mike Kidd, they used to do shows at the Creambow Palace, and they would use that term go-go. The term kind of infiltrated through advertising and marketing, and it just made sense. You know what I mean? And I, as I told you earlier, I had an advertising agency, so I was one cutting those commercials. And once they gave me the copy, or either Bobby Bennett or Mr. C will be doing the spots, that's when the word came out. So we just that was just a cliche that you constantly hear. But then I used to hang out with Chuck, because I used to try to get Chuck to play with some of our programs in Anacostia and down on the monument ground for Compared to What. And to hear him explain it, I was there all the time. Bands would get up there, they would play a record exactly like that was on the radio. Then they would stop, tune up again, and start all over again. So people would stand up, dance. The music stopped. They go back to seat, get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever they have to do. Then when the music stopped, they get back up and start over again. Well, Chuck's point was, I'm going to keep you on the floor. By him keeping you on the floor, it kept going and going and going. So that's where I thought it came from, because, it made sense. And Chuck had opportunity, or not opportunity, but he had a knack of interweaving modern popular culture with what was going on right there in front of him. Because he would give you some Duke Ellington, he would give you some King Pleasure, he would give you some Muddy Waters,
Louis Jordan,
give you some Muddy Waters, all that kind of stuff, but then bring you right back with maybe a hip hop song, a LL Cool J. He could do all that, and then his percussion section of the band could keep you on the floor until they decide what they want to play next. And Chuck's band was very well disciplined and very well rehearsed. So he had that pocket. Other bands couldn't compete with that because they was still, trying to get up, tweak stuff. Chuck wasn't about tweaking on stage. Rehearsal was done. Rehearsal. Right here, we just doing straight up playing. So I think that was what was going on.
Right. So because it's interesting that I've heard Sugar Bear and I've heard Big Tony tell me that when they were playing at first, they would stop. They did a show with Chuck. Chuck would go all the way through. And then eventually everybody in DC that was a band start implementing that groove or trying to keep the dance floor or the audience in, just keeping the dance floor going or whatever. So that was very interesting. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Chuck was the benchmark of that whole intro.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. So now, for most people who do not know, this amazing thing happened, this amazing thing that kind of took Go-Go over the top. Go-Go was flourishing in the early, mid 70s, and then Darryll Brooks came up with this genius idea that had never been done before. Come on, and we already know what it is for people in DC. It was called Go-Go Live. So basically, Darryll came up with this big concert, but he did a genius idea of deciding he was going to record it through video or whatever. Could you please, because for most people, even at my age, to this day, that is still the greatest video documentation of a go-go concert with multiple bands. Can you tell us how you came up with that, and what was your expectation in the beginning of it? And are you surprised that in 2022 it's still lasting?
Well, I want to get the record straight. Even though I was in the nucleus of that movement, I had just come off the road doing a tour with Run DMC called the Raising Hell Tour, across country. And I came home because there was a movie being filmed in DC called Good to Go. And during that movie, a lot of my friends who I'd seen in the park, seen in the club, seen at the cabarets were part of that movie. So I wanted to come home, get nurtured with my friends. So I go down, they were at the pension building down there in Northwest. I go down the pension building where they were filming. I run into Chuck, and Chuck said, hey. I said, how's everything going? He said, nah. I said, Chuck, what's wrong? Hey, man, it's just whack. I said, uh-oh. And sometimes when somebody tell you something's messed up, you want to step back like, I don't know if I want to get into that. You know what I mean? If somebody's upset, you don't want to be in that. Let that environment do what it's doing, and I'll catch him when he's on the up. So then I ran into Juju and Sugar Bear. And Juju busted straight out. Man, this shit, they making us look crazy out here, man. They got drugs, they got this. We ain't about that. And that's what them bastards, Darryll, we ain't about that. We trying to get away from that stuff. We trying to do something good. And these guys got us looking whack. Then I ran into somebody, I think it might have been Funk or a white boy, and they basically told me the same thing. So I went back to check. I said, okay, bunk this, man. If this is whack, we can do our own blanket movie. You know what I mean? Period. Let's do our own shit. We ain't gotta rely on somebody else to tell us what we are. We can tell our own story. Because I've been hanging out with guys who were doing that. But they hadn't been doing that here. So I said, hey, why don't you do this? Come past the office, let's hook up around Tuesday at my office, and we'll figure this out. Tuesday, them brothers walked through my door. Carol, myself, I think Gregory Hines, Gerald, everybody was at the office at the time. And we strategized. Let's do our own concert. And this is what we do now. I'm not going to take the 100% of the way. You're not going to take it. All of us going to be partners in this endeavor. Okay. Chuck, this is your responsibility. Sugar Bear, this is your responsibility. Ransom, this is your responsibility. Who else do we have on the show? Little Ben in the Mask? Okay, we'll bring Little Ben in. Who else? Junkyard, they'll bring Junkyard in. Who else? Charlie Fenwick's crew? Yeah, we'll bring Hot Cold Sweat. We'll bring his crew in. That sounds like a good show. Now, here's the other part you don't know. The Capitol Center wasn't having that. They wasn't letting Go-Go in that building.
Wow.
That was not their mantra because DC and Go-Go was like a stain in their head.
Yeah,
so
bad
Cal
news.
went up there and talked to the building manager and talked to A-Post. Hey, we guarantee you there'll be no problems at this show. There'd be no problems because how we used to do, we would bring one Go-Go act in the building, but we wouldn't let them know what kind of act it was. We just say we call it we got R&B that's playing with George Clinton. We got an R&B group playing with whoever. We never use the word go-go because once you put that label on it, they hit no. So we flipped it, and when we went and talked to them, and said we guarantee this show will be a great show. And they basically said, okay, we're gonna let you do this. The show ended up being incredible because we used some of the Capitol Center's film crew. Then we had one of the number one sound companies out in Baltimore called Sheffield's do the sound.
Mm-hmm.
We brought on a lighting director to make sure we had enough lights to really light up the stage to give it the proper. And the thing that was inherent that you probably find out from the groups is that each one of these groups took a certain amount of pride in what they were going to do. So everybody was rehearsing. Guys were getting outfits done and all kinds of signs and stuff they were doing. So they knew from a public standpoint, so-and-so is going to try to outdo so-and-so. Ray Essence is going to go up against her. Lil Benny going to come in because Lil Benny had just come out of Essence. He going to come in there with his stuff. So guys came in there sharp as tacks.
Ready to go.
The show that you saw wasn't the lineup of the show itself because we had to edit it. You know what I mean? But if you had seen the run of the show the way it was, it built up to a crescendo. When the way we edited it, we had to edit it because number one, the show was too long to put on one VHS tape because VHS tapes only go 100 minutes, 99 minutes. So in order to fit the format, we had to chop it up and flip it around because Chuck played longer than that. DC Scorpio was not the opening of the show. You know what I mean? So things had to be flipped around because DC Scorpio, he didn't have a band. So he had to play with Chuck, which came on later in the program. Right. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
So those kinds of adjustments when you come to the editor's suite, as you would know, that's how that came about. But we pressed them ourselves. And we had a relationship with Douglas Records and Douglas Jamal and a guy named Lou Rosenfeld, which had Douglas Records on F Street. So we went in there and told Douglas, yo, we're going to print these up. All we got is some cassette tapes and some VHS tapes. Pay us for what you got. As soon as you finish that, we'll bring you some more. Because we'd always heard all the ghost stories of people not getting paid. You have to wait 90 days to get paid. And, us street guys said, no, we ain't doing that. Give us our money right there. You'll get more. And as long as you sell them and give us our money, you'll get more stuff. He put a big console television in his front window. Just so happens our office was right across the street over top of a shoe store on 11th and F Street. So one day we walked out to go get something to eat. And then we came out. We saw all these mounds of people all in the street and all in the sidewalk. We said, what's going on over there? As we got close, we saw our video being looped on his big console television and all these people watching the show. And we started laughing. And then we got something to eat because we didn't think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Because the only thing we know, once he runs out, he'll call us, he'll get some on tape. That's how we did it. I got a call from Kathy Hughes. Hey, Darryll, the dope boy is going to come after you because you done took all the money off the street. I said, just don't give him my address. I'm good. Let's keep it moving. It's no problem. But it was a good run.
Okay, so just for everybody in context, because I know there was a lot being said, but let me give some context at the beginning. There was a movie called Good to Go that Chris Blackwell, who managed Bob Marley, he was the guy who was in charge of Island Records. He made an attempt to partner up with Go-Go. He created a movie and a soundtrack, and everybody in the DMV hated the movie. So it's good the context of the fact that the story plot was really bad, even though people feel like Chris Blackwell's attempts was good. The fact that
Max, don't forget Max Kidd. Max integrated the guys into the movie.
Yeah, okay. Let me give you an unknown fact about that. So there's three people that were involved in that. It was Verdine White, who was the music director, Chris Blackwell, and then Maxine came in as the promoter. So I kind of actually had a conversation with Chris Blackwell and Birdine about it. And what they both explained to me was that, and even Chris Blackwell, because I would say about 7 years ago, there was a Go-Go documentary. I was asked to be in it. When I was walking in, Chris Blackwell was walking out. And they introduced us, and he said that he regretted the story plot. So for a lot of people, the story plot of Go-Go being connected with drugs, and then for people who from DC, there was a story about a lady named Catherine Fuller, who people kind of feel like it was similar to that story where it was a gang rape or whatever, leaving from a Go-Go. So people wanted to disassociate themselves with that premise, and the movie was kind of loosely based around people get high to go to the Go-Go and do wild stuff. So what Darryll is talking about is the fact that he did Go-Go Live to kind of create, to erase the stain of that movie, which Chris Blackwell said it was a good attempt, but a bad plot. So I just wanted to give everybody context of what that, because Birdine, who was the music director as well, he kind of told me the same thing, that he wished they would have had a different story plot or whatever. So just moving as we move forward, I would say, for the first 2-3 years, how many copies do you think you sold of Go-Go Live? Because it was a massive, and I know I'm doing bad business possibly, but just for context, it was a massive success. That was the one time that everybody had the VHS and everybody had the record or a copy of the record. I would say for the first 2 years, what numbers do you think you did, and were you surprised of the demand of the recirculation of the product?
Well, to be honest, Mr. Vegas, I generally don't discuss my bank account.
Yes,
but
sir.
I will say the following: that we did a very good run. We did a second run, and then we accomplished our obligation to everybody who was involved with us.
Right.
Then we started our own record label called I Hear It Records.
Mm-hmm.
I reactivated that label about a year ago. That's why I got a lot of groups now on my label, which you're aware of. But at the same time, the bootleggers and the community took over. They started pressing it themselves. They started selling the cassettes themselves, and that didn't bother me, because if somebody could still foster the imaging and the music in the community, it was no problem. It was like, okay, we took the first leg of the relay. Y'all can take the second leg of the relay. People have been. I've heard so many stories of how that changed their lives when they were in junior high school, elementary school, watching their older brothers and sisters get involved with it and how much they enjoyed it. And that tradition has laid a premise up until today. I still hear at least once or twice a month, Darryll, when you going to do another one? Or, man, I couldn't wait to see that. Oh, yeah, I still got my copy. It's wore out. Or I bought 2 copies because my first one, we just wore the tape out every day.
100%. 100%. And let me say this, and before you go, my bad, what people do not know the depths and the importance of this is most young kids my age introduction to go-go music visually was through this. There was no visual video presentation. What that product did was spawn the next 2 generations of go-go music. This is a fact, Mark. Like, this ain't even a thing. Without that, I don't know if go-go would have been able to sustain itself. The visual pod of seeing that sparked a whole generation of people doing go-go music, including me and everybody that is probably on this label right now. Go ahead, Mark.
And again, amazing line of questioning. And shout out to, Darryll, Tony Brown is online. Also, Dira says, hey, Uncle Darryll. Mike Long, who is Tommy Broadwater, that's his grandson. They all say, what's up? Mike Long calls you a fucking genius. Love it. And so, Darryll, your life almost plays like the fictional character Forrest Gump, and that you've been a part of so many different turning points in music. And so you were part of the NWA tour, Ice-T, Ice Cube, hip hop. You remember when HUR had whole signs about we ain't playing no hip hop or no rap, and it changed. Darryll, so I remember there was a time when rap was first rap, let's say New York culture, but then there was a phase in the 80s where it was a real positive phase where rappers were talking about, they kind of even threw the gold away, had the Ankh, they had the Africa leather pieces, the raps, the songs could be talking about drug trade, but the ending of the story was a tragic end. I mean, all you gotta do is look at the children's story to see that, right? And then it changed. Now, my conspiracy mind, Darryll, and I have a conspiratorial mind. When I hear kids in these songs now still whipping it up in the kitchen, damn, Darryll, are they still whipping it up in the kitchen in 2022? Is that people still cooking up drugs in the kitchen? I mean, or is there a something going on? So, Darryll, number one, when did you see the switch happen? And then also tell us about that whole NWO experience.
Well, two things, because you touched upon several things. I had the opportunity because I was traveling in Parliament Funkadelic. We used to have Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five open our shows because they had hot records. And, we had a hot record that's always good for the opening act. They were easy to deal with because all they had was an 8-foot table and some turntables. And, you get them in, get them on and get them off. The union used to laugh. Like, are they going to play on that? And we just say, hey, that's what they do. And they start putting a styrofoam in between the table and the turntable so it wouldn't bounce, because sometimes they came with dancers. But then things progressed. They started being rap tours. And I think NWA came later, but Run DMC did a great deal, and Def Jam did a great deal because they started putting major production involved. But before that, there were other groups, because I'm sure you remember, you might not remember, but we were involved with Salt and Pepper in their early touring days. And we kind of formulated and changed their whole presentation on the road. Instead of them running around, we gave them a production, and other groups that came along with them, like Kid and Play. And then we ended up doing a joint venture with Herbie Lovebug, and we ended up touring and put packages together. And to be honest, we had Teddy Riley and Guy open for Salt and Pepper. We had MC Hammer open for Salt and Pepper. And we also put an all-girl band, Pleasure, as their backup band. So that gave Cheryl an opportunity to command a band. And that's when nobody could kick their ass. We were kicking everybody's ass. Because number one, they had up-tempo hits, and they had an ass-kicking band. So, somebody will say, hey, man, your girls got to come before. No, don't worry about us. We all right. We did a tour with R. Kelly. R. Kelly said, hey, y'all, I'll come on before y'all, thinking he was going to kill us. We waxed his ass every night. So then we go to Chicago. We sold out 2 shows in Chicago. His manager said, Darryll, R said, he got to be the closing act in his hometown. Can he close the show? So that means we said, great. Cheryl said, Darryll, go book us a restaurant and go book us a bowling alley. That'll be the first time we'll be able to hang out during the day and not get off stage at midnight. So I did that. The first night when we had to come after us, he cried because the audience was wore out. So the next night I get a phone call at like 2:00 in the morning. Hey, Darryll, I wants to change it around. I said, no, you can't change it now, brother. We've already got reservations for the night too, as well as who's going to pay for the production to change the stage around, because that means we had to reset the whole stage. Who's going to pay for that? No, we're not doing that. We're not sharing that expense. So your man got to close again tonight. We laughed all day long. That made them even get even extra hard that next day. So, but the thing that also, Mark and Bootsy, I want y'all to recognize, the music that we were doing across country was very positive. These are the breaks and things that were going on in the area. But when the drug of choice changed, when the mafia and white folks and the hustlers started changing the drug from weed to cocaine to free base to crack, when that changed, that's when some of the lyrics of those pockets changed, because guys were talking about that and they glorified it because it was making money in the streets. And if you recognize what happened, the federal government flooded Oakland with crack. They flooded them with that, and they really turned their whole head around over on the West Coast. It slowly came in the Bible Belt and started changing. So as you went across country, attitudes changed. A certain kind of meanness came up. People started using guns instead of knuckling up. It was this change, and I think that was the change and the dynamics of the music. I got involved with Ziggy Marley and those guys, Third World. I used to manage Third World, and I was trying to integrate a more of a cultural exchange into our community and see what that could do. But big money, big corporations were pushing a whole nother agenda into our community and across country. They did not expect, believe me, they did not expect that white suburbia and white males and females would fall into rap. They had no idea that was going to happen. And when that happened, what a change, because rap music now has become popular music. And it has accelerated because remember, we were wearing little dookie chains, little thin gold chains. We thought sneakers was happening. We thought this was happening, little jogging suits. No. You watch the change. Watch early Puffy videos to later Puffy. They weren't riding in yachts. They weren't riding in Lamborghinis. They were happy to have a Honda that had wheels on it. You know what I mean? That whole game changed. They weren't good. They didn't have big watches. They were wearing what do you call it? Swatches. You know what I mean? So those things changed as time went on, and it gave us whole nother imaging because we live vicariously through our artists. You know what I mean? When James Brown and them had all this big jewelry and it fell out in the audience, nobody ran out in the audience because the shit was costume jewelry. These rappers took that stuff as like, you got to have real jewelry. Okay, you got real jewelry. That's when you start getting stuck up. Because how you gonna walk in the room with $50,000 worth of jewelry in some of these communities and somebody don't challenge you? They ain't got that money. You got what they want. When you flaunt it, that means you think you should own it. No, you don't. They're gonna come after it. So I watched that change. Eazy-E was a great producer, was a great hustler. Russell Simmons and what Leor and them developed with Def Jam. Shy-Ty, what he did. Latifah and Shakim, what they did. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different pockets of guys that came across the country that developed artists. Jay Prince in Texas. Master P, think of what they did industrial-wise, economic-wise. But that's not publicized to the magnitude that it should be. And the best thing that happened to them, to be honest, was the internet. Because they couldn't censor what was going on here as well as they censored it as it was going on in those communities.
And Darryll said you got to share some of your reggae, just a little bit of the reggae stories. You know Darryll.
Darryll basically turned me on to that. She was my counselor, and my culturalist. I would go to Darryll's house, sit in her living room. The girl had a museum and a glossary of all types of music, and she would tell me from a cultural standpoint, this is what's happening here, this is what they do there, this is what happens here, this is what happened here. And listen to this. And I would sit down and listen. Then she would give me a tutorial to take these CDs home and listen to them, and you'll be better know. And I used to call it reggae instead of reggae. So I would even pronounce, she even told me how to pronounce it properly. You know what I mean? So yes, shout out to Darryll. She's an excellent connoisseur, curator of the culture.
Paul Porter's on. He says, what was the best era for you? 80s, 90s, or 2000s for concerts?
I'll say the following. When I was young and getting involved with it for the first time, it was fun because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. Right. And the first time I lost money, I was upset because I thought every time you do a show, you're supposed to make money. And I'd done 13 shows with Parliament Funkadelic from D.C. all the way down to Hollywood, Florida. And when we got to Hollywood, Florida, there were so many people trying to get into the concert, but it was only a 2-lane highway. So the people got clogged up on the highway and couldn't get to the building by the curfew. So I lost money there. Excuse me. So I was sad. But after that, we did all the Parliament Funkadelic tours, the Uncle Jam's Army tour, the Atomic Dog tour, the Aku Boogie tour, the Second Land of the Mothership tour. We landed it in Madison Square Garden. We landed in Central Park. The mothership that you see at the museum, we did that in Central Park. So, but the Raising Hell tour was one of the biggest rap tours, most successful rap tours of that era. That was in '86. That was incredible. But we also did the Barcades tour across country. We also had Heavy D across country. We had Salt and Pepper across. So all those were great opportunities. They were fun because, to be honest, we had opportunity to take young adults, young kids who were like between 19 to maybe 25 across country for the first time, basically disciplined them. Wait a minute, I did the first 3 Public Enemy tours across country. So I got Public Enemy plaques around my house. Those were the things that were, to me, groundbreaking and conscious raising of that era. So to answer Paul, I would say that time period, when things got much bigger and the money's got much bigger, that's when things changed, because I had to deal with major companies. I had to deal with Live Nation. I had to deal with AEG, and guys who had money coming from the stock markets or from billionaires. Had to partner with them. And
Clear Channel.
Well, Clear Channel. Yeah, Clear Channel ended up being Live Nation. So so they changed the contour of what you can do. But I would say the era that I had, because I got to say one other thing. We put black roadies on the map. Not on the map, but we got them integrated into the business.
Absolutely.
We had some of them working. They got internships out there at the complex, out there with Maurice in Earth, Wind, and Fire. And we had them with Parliament Funkadelic.
He told me.
We try to put guys in the business. So we wouldn't go to some buildings if they didn't have black guys on the call. We tell them we're not coming to the show. You know what I mean? So we were doing those kind of things. So Mark, if you go back to what I said to you earlier when I came back home, when the guy made me take off that stocking cap, that never left. I always wanted somebody. That's why anytime we do a real good show, a big show, I always got to have a go-go group on these shows.
That's a fact.
Why would I not have somebody from my hometown be a part of this, get some of the same exposure, and make some of this money? Why wouldn't I? If I can do it, I'm going to make it happen. So we've been consistent. My partner and I have been consistent with that. So nobody else is coming. Nobody else is going to take care of your family but you. Nobody else is going to do the kinds of things. And if you don't respect it or command it, then you don't get it. I don't know. I kind of went off on a trip. I'm sorry.
No, it's all great. I would love to ask you this question. What made you come up with the Summer Spirit Festival, and what was your planning in that? Because that at this point in the DMV, that is the most.
You fell right into it.
I know.
You fell into the trap.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me watch his face when I say this. Bootsy, we've never changed.
Right.
The same thing we did in the park, education through the arts, education through music. It's the same. Right. White folks got tired of using human kindness, so we say Summer Spirit.
Right.
We still have arts and displays and craftsmen on the line. Busy Bees Marketplace has over 90 different artisans, sometimes even 100 artisans on the grounds. The music comes from all cultures. We've had people from Australia, Africa, England, as well as contemporary artists in the States on our shows. We've never changed.
Right.
We got black guys on stage. We've never changed. We just changed the name. Semantics work.
Right.
Our consistency, if you look at our career, Carol's, my career, and we've been in business for 50 years. If you look at our first concert to our concert now, the format is still there.
Wow.
We still care. We're still culturally aware. Not just another concert, but an event.
Wait a minute, there to spit some bars too, Bootsy. What's going on?
Absolutely. Somebody had a question here, and it's a great question. I guess, what advice would you give to a new artist, and what advice would you give to a go-go band that's trying to venture outside of the DMV area? So I guess the first one would be a new artist.
Go to those other areas and find out what they're talking about. Find out where their heart's at. Let them know who you are as well as you find out who they are. That's when they're meshed. And Mark said something else earlier when he said, "Well, how did you do that?" When DC didn't care about rap, we did a concert called Go Meets Rap. We brought some of the best rappers and had the best go and let people see them together. They're talking about the same thing: life, love, happiness, having fun. When the culture changed, that's when their focus changed. Until the dope boys got involved with the game, they said, we can make some money. Let's talk about this weed. Let's talk about this chain. Let's talk about this money. Let's talk about stripping. Let's talk about sex. Salt and pepper, when they said let's talk about, it wasn't about the kind of sex I hear these other people talking about today. Oh, heck no. You know what I mean? When them boys from that down that bottom song talking about lollipop, we were more conservative than that. DC
Right.
is a scholastic hub of education. We got we got kids that can read. So the stuff they were talking about, I'm not saying that to everybody, but I'm just saying some of their topics would not have been our topics.
Right. Last thing for me before Mark jump back in, can you give me your best Chuck Brown story? Because I know you had many. I remember at his funeral, you gave the funniest Chuck Brown story about Europe. Can you give us your favorite or your best Chuck Brown memory, just experience in general?
I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
So Chuck had because I was such a fan and friend, and I worked with him and did shows with him. He said, Darryll, I want you to make a phone call for me because I got an opportunity to go to Japan. I said, okay, just tell me what you want me to do. Because I'd already road managed, I'd already been in that world, but I never asked him to do anything for him. You know, I would, hey, Chuck, where you going tonight? I'm going to Carter Burn. I said, I'm going to ride up there with you. Come on, get in the car. It was that kind of relationship. Right. So he said, okay, I'm going to go to Tokyo. Just make this phone call for me and get all the information. And, you know, you can go with me as my road manager. It's okay. So we went to Tokyo and Osaka. Did all the preliminary work, did all the prep work, you know, the advance in the show. I did all that. So we get to the show, and it's during the Christmas holidays. The first time we played Osaka, I was blown away. It was incredible. The Japanese people, incredible, gave you everything you needed. So we get to Tokyo, then we got to stay there for 2 days, 2 shows. So we prepared, the car's out front waiting. I knock on the door. I open up the door. Chuck opens the door. He has on a tuxedo. Said, Chuck, what are you doing? He said, Darryll, that's how they know me here. I said, you Sammy Davis Jr., look at what the hell is this? But you know what? We went to the show and they sang his music. They might not know what the words they were singing, but they were singing his music. That was incredible. We had the opportunity because of Chuck's family and Tom Goldfogle to produce his memorial service at the Washington Convention Center.
Amazing job too.
And I'm sitting there listening to all these people talk about Chuck. And I'm saying, who y'all talking about? He did what? Marion Barry gave him a straight up speech and some council person, straight up speech. I started looking around. I said, wait a minute. I got up and I said, that ain't the Chuck I know. I said, Chuck Brown? I had my piece of paper. I put my name up there. How many of y'all have ever put your name on a piece of paper and want to hear Chuck say your name? Everybody roared. Yeah.
They sure did.
I said, that Chuck, I know. How many of y'all? Right. And I started walking. I started pacing the stage. I said, y'all tell me, is that the Chuck y'all know? And people just roared, man.
Yep.
Chuck made you feel important. Chuck gave you status if he said your name.
That's a fact.
And when he shouted you out, believe me, you might be able to get a drink or a girl that day.
That's a fact.
So that's Chuck I know.
Unknown story about Chuck. The last interview that he ever did, I actually did. We did it at Go Radio. The last interview before he passed away. And when he left, he told me, no matter what you do not never give up journalism. He said, look, man, DC gonna need you because you're one person that can speak on both sides of the fence. He even predicted that Wale was gonna be successful, but the last thing he ever told me was do not give up journalism, which is the reason why I'm still doing interviews today. Well, that's how important he was. That's how he would empower people. So amazing story about that, man.
And so Darryll Brooks, as we knew it was going to be an amazing hour or so, bruh. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
We value you. We value you.
We're stand on your shoulders. And again, what you brought and what you bring is what we all hope to bring, and that is positive change in any space that we're in. How can people reach you? Tell us about you, anything coming up, and again, how people can reach out to you.
Well, as it stands right now, our biggest event is the Summer Spirit Festival at Meriwether Post Pavilion. And this year we got Erykah Badu, Anthony Hamilton, Marsha Ambrosius, Method Man, Jay Brown, a Junkyard Band who's just going to be releasing a new single very soon. We're very excited about that. We're also doing Patti LaBelle at MGM That's coming up. And also later on in the year, we got Chris Rock at the Constitution Hall. So those are some of the things. And there's a possibility of another show coming, but it's too early to talk about it. I'm easy to find. Darryll Brooks at AOL.com. 2 R's and 2 L's when you spell Darryll. It hasn't changed. People laugh at me. You got that old school address. Hey, it worked then. It works now.
And they're always, hey man, always send us the commercials so we can run them on the show. You know, we're partners, brother. We family. You know.
Be glad to.
All right, man. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
One more thing. Uh-huh. I Hear You Entertainment, my record label. I have some great records out right now.
Yes,
One Experience. They have a record out, If It Feels Good, which is doing very well. It's slowly picking up. Serious Company right now. Sugar
Happy birthday, Scooby. I'm sorry.
Birthdays today. Happy birthday, Scoob. Wisdom Speaks. WAP has a product being released. I think I hit everybody. I hope I hit everybody. JYP. Rayson, no, not Rayson's. EU.
Serious Company.
Serious Company. I think I hit everybody.
Yeah, you did.
If I missed somebody, don't be mad. I'm old.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Darryll Brooks. Bootsy Vegas.
Hey, Darryll.
Yes,
Darryll,
sir.
just real talk. Man, it's interesting that the two people I'm on this call with are the two people who empower me to keep doing journalism. I've always thanked Mark, but Darryll, thank you for the opportunity to create that amazing One Go World platform that we have now created, which is doing amazing right now. And I just want to thank you for everything you do, but also thank you after all these years of still trying to pour in and provide resources and avenues for people like me to keep going. I mean, once again, we really can't have this story about go-go and just promotership in the DMV without you, but thank you for still what you're doing, man. I appreciate you immensely. I appreciate them random phone calls that you give me, you know what I mean, that you will randomly call me asking me, what are you doing? Why are you not doing this? You start yelling, I love you, get busy, and then he hangs up. I appreciate you, Darryll. I really do, bro.
Hey, Mark, he's telling the truth. I told Mark, Bootsy is my program director for One Go World Live, and once we get some real funding, I'll be happy. I've even forced him to buy cameras and stuff so he can be the man on the street to be able to do it. I said the phones they got out there today can film anything. Just get it recorded. We'll be able to do it on a platform soon. But Mark, I want to thank you for even thinking about me and putting me in your world. I've been your career for years.
Always a pleasure, man. And again, you made it amazing. And I'll send you a link, man. This is history in the making. Everybody have a great one. That's how you start the week. We'll see you tomorrow.